The two girls that stand atop the RWBY series as the fan favorites, literally ranking first and second in last year's Best Girl poll. We have the Queen of Ice herself, Weiss Schnee, against the Ice Cream Queen, Neopolitan. Today we're going to pit these two against one another in a 1v1 combat style setting as the second exhibition match of the Phoenix Festival tournament. We're going to be using the stage of Amity Coliseum. There's going to be no such thing as a ring out, and they will be fighting to a full aura break. We're going to assume they follow tournament rules, so no activating semblances or anything before the match actually begins, because, you know, throwing up illusions before the match would be considered illegal, and this, we're going to assume that Neo and Weiss both follow the rules. We're going to be comparing their weapons, semblances, fighting styles to determine who eventually would win in this style of fight. And at the end, I'll give a small scenario on how I think the fight might potentially go and determine who I think would be the winner. But the overall winner will be decided by all of you in the comments below, so make sure to let me know who you think would win in this tournament style setting, and give a reason as to why you think one has the advantage over the other. In last week's match versus Crow and Raven against one another in this tournament style setting without the magic powers in play, a lot of people were giving quite detailed analyses of their fighting styles. Whether thinking that one or the other has the advantage, there were people on both sides, and it was really great to see how in-depth and the different perspectives that other people had. I love reading those types of comments. Overall, though, the majority did say that in this style of setting, with no magic in play, Crow Bronwyn would win out over his sister. Now, if this match was to take place in the RWBY series, things could go completely differently, but overall, in this case, Crow did beat his sister. But with that being said, let's jump into today's fight between Weiss and Neo. Starting with Weiss. Her weapon is Myrtenaster, in and of itself a rapier, a weapon that's very good at dealing piercing-style blows. Now in close quarters combat, Weiss is easily able to use the edge of the blade to parry and block opponents' attacks, but is often seen going for a finishing blow using a piercing-style attack, or just to deal damage using piercing. But though that is the rapier of Myrtenaster, it is so much more than just a rapier. In its guard are many different dust cartridges that can be utilized for many different things. Weiss herself is a master at using dust. You know, makes sense coming from one of the most prominent dust companies in all of Remnant, but Weiss has been shown throughout the series multiple times to be using ice and fire dust from Myrtenaster, as well as pointed out to me in the comments in my previous video about Weiss's semblance of glyphs. She's used wind and earth dust as well. Not only that, it also has the capability of lightning and gravity dust, though she hasn't really used that outside of augmenting her semblance. But this allows such versatility in battle, and with Weiss continuing to improve from where she started out in Volume 1, struggling against the Borbitusk, to where she is now able to take out hordes of Grimm on her own, work alongside allies very well, and also, at the end, in the fight against the Ace Operatives, able to 1v1 one of the most skilled huntsmen in all of Atlas. Though Marrow's heart wasn't really in the fight, he was still aiming to win, and Weiss was able to easily snatch victory away from him. Now, her semblance of glyphs I did explain in a previous video, but I'll briefly go over it here. One thing I will note, though, Myrtenaster is often used as almost a conducting wand for her semblance, and it seems as though she wasn't really able to use any of her glyphs outside of her summoning without her weapon. Look at Volume 3, for example, in her fight against Flint Cole. When her weapon was taken away from her, she didn't have any way to combat against him. But her glyphs are adding yet another versatile aspect to her semblance. Her white glyphs, her base glyphs, can create physical platforms and accelerate things, propel them forwards. She's been using this with ice and fire in particular, but as people pointed out with the earth dust before, it allowed Weiss to create that giant wall of rock against Cordovan's blasts back at the end of Volume 6. She was only able to shoot up that giant rock wall using her glyphs as acceleration. But she's more adept at using fire and ice. I feel like that's what she's more comfortable using, though she still could use other ones. I want to see her use lightning dust more, but lightning and gravity actually augment the abilities of her glyphs. Rather than just propulsion, gravity dust can allow the glyphs to pull things in and also propel them forwards. And then lightning dust can increase a person's speed, a person's momentum in the form of time dilation. This is a very versatile semblance. Having the many different abilities associated with this, plus all the different dust capabilities, Weiss is such a versatile fighter. So much to learn, and as she progresses throughout the series, I look forward to where she will grow. She also has the ability of summoning Grimm or enemies that she's defeated in the past that have pushed her to her limits to her side in battle. Her most notable is the RWBY, and next up probably being the Queen Lancer, followed by her last summon that we know of currently being the Borbatusk. Now, in battle, she's only used the Queen Lancer and RWBY, because, well, they're more the boss-style Grimm and will do a lot more damage. But one thing that is very notable, it takes time to summon. So if she's disrupted during the summoning, she will not be able to summon. As shown in the fight with Vernal, where Weiss really relied on her summoning, and Vernal didn't give her the chance, wasn't really able to summon. But by the time Volume 7 came around, she was able to use her dust capabilities, ice and fire, combining the two attacks to make a smokescreen, and defeated Marrow by being able to summon her RWBY before he could react. So Weiss has definitely improved up to this point and is a force to be reckoned with. On the flip side, so is Neo. Her weapon is called Hush. It's her umbrella. Not really anything known for, dealing much damage, but Hush is almost in itself a sheath for another rapier-style weapon. Though Neo normally keeps it sheathed, she can unsheath it and deal piercing-style attacks as well. Normally, when sheathed, though, she can send the spike out of the tip of the umbrella to create the umbrella itself, having the stabbing capabilities. She almost, skewered Oscar in the head back in Volume 7, but this is normally not what Neo uses the umbrella for. Neo's way of fighting is to use the opponent's momentum and their energy against them. She is a very manipulative fighter. Weiss in and of herself is pretty straightforward and is head-on combat, whether it's with dust, her glyphs, her weapon, or her summons. Neo is very adept at using people's energy against them, as shown in Volume 7 when she fought against the entirety of Team Juniper or Alpine, whichever you prefer to call them. She wiped the floor with all of them. 1v4, she was able to win and escape with the relics, using various things to her advantage. Because her umbrella, first and foremost, Hush, is extremely durable, able to withstand a couple shots from Nora's grenade launcher like nothing, as well as Yang's shotgun blasts back in Volume 2, this umbrella is pretty sturdy. Not to mention, Neo is probably one of the best fighters we've seen throughout the RWBY series. Most adept at using, as I said, opponents' force against them, but when she went 1v1 versus Cinder, and Cinder was pushed to a corner where she had to rely on her maiden powers. Now, Cinder herself relies on her maiden powers more than other maidens we've seen in the series, but she's not a weak fighter by any means, and Neo was pushing her back. But there's also the fact of Neo's semblance, something that is very useful in fights where she can take advantage of the emotions of people. When she was fighting against Yang, she relied on Yang's anger, increasingly just toying with Yang until she could take advantage of Yang's momentum, making her more angry and winning her the fight. This does have weaknesses, though, as it seems Neo can get a bit overconfident. In the fight between herself and Team Alpine, she was overconfident, but that was rightly so. But if someone took the opportunity, as Neo got overconfident and went to attack Ren, Jean was quickly able to step in, use his gravity dust to send her flying backwards. She does seem to get a little bit overconfident in battle. As well, against Cinder, she thought she had the advantage, was blaming Cinder for the death of Roman, etc., and Cinder pulling out the maiden powers, Neo kind of stopped dead in her tracks. She knows when she's beat, she knows when she's outmatched, and knows when to retreat. This is the same thing she did against Yang when, Yang was on the ground. She was about to deal the finishing blow, but Raven showed up. She fled on sight. Neo is a very versatile fighter with her semblance of overactive imagination, the ability to create real illusions. This allowed her to escape from Raven, or at least make the illusion of escaping. She can't actually teleport, but can create an illusion, making herself disappear to everyone else, and also giving time for them to escape. When Neo was first introduced, she used that semblance to escape from Roman, or escape from Team RWBY for herself and Roman. When these illusions are broken, they end up shattering. Neo is able to use this very, very well. In Volume 7, when Oscar grabbed her legs, she was still standing there, but then when someone attacked it, it just shattered. She was already able to escape, but that illusion was real to Oscar. Not to mention, she's also able to mask someone and use it against, mask herself as someone else and use it against the opponent psychologically. Case in point, she masked herself as Nora and fought against Ren. And Ren couldn't bring himself, and it damaged him emotionally when he saw himself about to slash at the person he loves. And very notably, Neo can use this to her advantage against Weiss. Neo posed as a butler in the Schnee household for at least a little while, so already knows of Whitley and Winter and Jacques, but also probably has seen Willow and knows Weiss's connection to her, as probably heard some things here and there while in the mansion. So that's the basic overview of their abilities, their weapons, and their semblances, and it is notable that they both probably know a fair bit about each other's capabilities. Weiss was there when Neo was first introduced and saw her overactive imagination, her illusions, help Neo and Roman escape, and Neo saw Weiss use her time dilation and other glyphs during that battle. Then throughout the series, with Cinder sharing information with Neo, it'd be easy to assume that Neo knows about Weiss's summons, as well as, Neo being there when Weiss summoned her Armagigas to eventually arrest Jacques, and people would tell Weiss about Neopolitan. Team Juniper or Alpine knew of her and have heard things about her, her illusions, etc., even though they have never encountered her themselves. So, Weiss might know about Neo's capability to transform into another person. Presumably, they might have been told that at the end of Volume 7, because this tournament we're assuming is taking place after that point, etc. So they would possibly be familiar with each other's semblances and abilities, but maybe not their full capabilities. So, going into this fight, how I think it would play out is, first, upon the match beginning, Weiss would try to see what Neo is capable of, starting off using her glyphs and Myrtanaster to send a barrage of dust attacks at Neo. Probably fire and ice, as that's what Weiss seems to be most comfortable with, and Neo, the same as she's done against other attacks like that, Nora's grenades, for example, or Yang's shotgun blasts, would simply use Hush and block them all. This might frustrate Weiss a little bit, realizing that her dust attacks aren't going to do very much, but would probably switch to trying to summon immediately after that. And Neo, realizing that Weiss was using Myrtanaster for its dust capabilities and controlling the glyphs, they're both very adept fighters and would be able to take note of the situation very quickly, so Neo would quickly realize without the weapon, the fight would become quite a bit easier if she can just get Myrtanaster away from Weiss. So Neo would throw up an illusion and try to get close to Weiss, not going for a damaging blow, but trying to disarm Weiss or throw her off guard, etc. Weiss would probably use the same thing that she used in the fight with Marrow, creating an ice floor and then fire over top of that to create steam and a smoke screen to try to eventually summon. Now, it is possible that Neo, being as quick as she is and as agile, etc., would be able to get close to Weiss and possibly get advantage and prevent Weiss from summoning at that point. Because it takes time to summon, so if Neo could get in there, then she would be able to take advantage of that. With keeping it one-on-one, Neo would have a very good advantage as she is the more adept fighter. But I think Weiss would be able to get off her summon. I think she would go for the Armagigas over the Queen Lancer. She's more familiar with the Armagigas, would be able to summon it faster. And although it did take longer in Volume 5 for Weiss to summon, it didn't take very long in Volume 7 against Marrow to summon the Armagigas. She only needs a couple seconds, and the Armagigas can be summoned pretty quickly. I think it'd be no stretch to have Weiss get this off. But after that is the case, Weiss would be relying on the 2v1 advantage in this fight. If Neo can get close, which she would easily be able to do, as Weiss is summoning her Armagigas, Neo would be able to get close, and once it's close quarters combat, the Armagigas can't really do that much. Because if it goes for a giant swing of its sword, well, Weiss is going to be there in the way. Maybe Weiss, knowing that where the blade is going to strike, would be able to dodge, but I don't think the Armagigas would do that much against Neo, because of how easily she can use a momentum against other people and parry attacks. I think she would be able to use Hush to glide herself out of the way of any attacks that the Armagigas has and be able to keep it very close quarters one-on-one. Weiss would be trying to use her base glyphs, her white ones of propulsion, to propel herself away or propel Neo away from herself so that the Armagigas can deal with that. Weiss can send out dust barrages, but Neo has the one distinct advantage. Even if Weiss knows about this and is expecting it, I don't know if Weiss knows about Neo seeing her family. So Neo would be able to take advantage of that at a critical moment, whether the Armagigas is going for an attack, or more likely, when Weiss maybe thinks she has the advantage and is going for an attack, similar to how Ren attacked Nora, Weiss would see herself attacking her mother, or possibly Whitley or Winter, but I think if Neo cloaked herself as Willow Schnee, that would take pretty heavy toll on Weiss, even if she knew it was Neo and everything like that. Similar to how Ren reacted, I think there would be a moment of hesitation with Weiss, and Neo would be able to land a critical blow. I don't think this is how the fight would end, but it would be enough that would give Neo enough advantage that, keeping it close quarters, Neo would be able to overwhelm Weiss and eventually win the fight. Neo would take a little bit of damage, possibly here and there, but with the ability that she has to parry attacks and her base just combat abilities being a lot higher than it seems a lot of other people in the RWBY series are, with her being able to, spin around other people, and the way that we've seen her fight, especially in particular against Team Juniper or Alpine, I think Neo just has the advantage in this fight. It won't be a clean win by any means, because Weiss could be using her glyphs and semblance and dust to gain advantages here and there, but I think overall Neo would adapt quicker and be able to overcome Weiss. So my overall conclusion is that Neo wins. But let me know if you disagree in the comments below, or if you have anything to add to my analysis of their fighting styles, their weapon semblances. Let me know what you guys think. I look forward to reading your comments, and next week's fight is one that a couple people have commented about already as well. We're going to have some infighting in the villains team. We are going to have Tyrion Kalos versus Adam Toros, two characters who have never met one another, so this will be an interesting analysis to go over as well. And their semblances, etc. This is going to be a fun one. But if you want to see Weiss and Neo go head-to-head again, you'll have the opportunity to next week in the Best Girls poll of the RWBY series that will be starting once again. After Volume 7 has aired, the channel's grown quite a bit, and I'd love to see how everyone stacks up against each other in the Best Girls poll. So that'll be held probably mid-next week, and going for a week at that, you'll be able to vote for your top 3 Best Girls of the RWBY series, etc. So a lot to look forward to. Make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of this RWBY content that is going to be coming out over, well, the next few years, hopefully, but this summer in particular with the first Phoenix Festival tournament, all these polls, etc. Tweet me at Phoenix Knight 7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.